Welcome to What is Going Om for new thought from the edge of Om. Each week on OMTimes' flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Om. Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello. Tonight, we're going to listen to and hear about the making of the latest album produced by Metta Mindfulness Music, a unique company founded by world-renowned musician, composer, producer, and peace activist Yuval Ron, and pioneering integrative health practitioner Dr. Richard Gold. Metta Mindfulness Music was founded with the purpose of producing medicinal music and soulful sacred healing albums informed by ancient wisdom traditions and the most current advances in neuroscience and music therapy research. Yuval Ron, Dr. Richard Gold, welcome back to the show.
Oh, wonderful to hear your voice, Sandie.
And it's good to have you both here. We've spoken on several occasions over the last few years about the healing power of sound and music and the use of brain entrainment technology to promote healing and well-being. And your company has produced some truly unique medicinal albums based on all kinds of interesting things like Chinese energy and mantras and healing sounds. But your latest release, 4 Divine States of Mind, which features 4 celebrated female artists and other internationally renowned musicians, is not just aimed at healing individuals of physical pain or restoring emotional and psychological equilibrium, but rather it's aimed at cultivating higher virtues and helping to heal a wounded world. Well, now that seems very, very timely to me. So tell me, when and how did the inspiration for this album come to you?
Well, if I may go first, Dr. Gold and Sandie, this is Yuval, the composer. I have the delightful position in life to receive commissions from very interesting people like film directors that I work with on documentaries or writers of musicals that ask me to compose the music for the musicals, or healers and doctors and pioneer scientists, neuroscientists like Dr. Gold and others that contact me and ask me to create music based on a concept that they came up with. And in this case, Dr. Gold told me about this concept from Buddhism of the 4 divine states of mind, which are loving kindness, compassion, vicarious joy, and equanimity. And he asked me if I could compose music that would invoke those qualities and would help people attune to those virtues and cultivate those higher virtues in a way that is different than the traditional Buddhist practice where you sit and meditate. You just sit in silence and you meditate on those values. And there's different chants and mantras that could help you. But we wanted to create new music that people could sing along with, they could dance to, they could do any body work to, they could use it as sacred music. It's really, for me, it was creating sacred music, creating prayers that invoke those virtues. And that's how this project came about.
Well, Richard, you suggested it to Yuval. So what inspired you to do this?
Well, actually, from the beginning of my partnership with Yuval about 10 years ago, this was on my mind, that this was something that these concepts I was working with in my teaching of traditional Thai healing work, which is informed by Buddhist tradition and was historically practiced in the monasteries. And but I really didn't feel we were ready for it. We were new in our collaboration. And as you were mentioning, we worked in Chinese medicine, we worked in Ayurvedic medicine, we did healing remedies. And at a certain point, it was before the pandemic, because we actually started this a couple years before the pandemic, I felt we were ready to tackle something much more profound and not as specific to deal with virtues. And I talked to Yuval, and we did quite a bit of reading and research, and he consulted with leading Buddhist teachers in the LA area. And so we arrived at this point that we felt we were ready. And then Yuval took it into artistic directions, which I had not even wrapped my head around. But these teachings were something that I'm trying to incorporate in my life, which is to bring higher virtues into our everyday life and work, and not just save it for the day we go to a temple or the day we go to a church. And Yuval exceeded my expectations, I have to say, and as I think your listeners will hear soon.
Yeah, well, I've been watching all the videos today, and I mean, the videos are beautiful, and the behind the scenes, shots are really good too. It's nice to meet the musicians and the singers behind the scenes and see you at work at home, Yuval. But, it just sounds like it was a long time in the making then. Doesn't that make it an incredibly expensive production for you guys?
It is. It is a very expensive production indeed. Yeah, it's international.
Yes, exactly.
Because we only use high-level musicians. We don't use synthesizers. Our singers we recorded in Australia, in Spain, here in LA. Musicians in India. So it was quite an undertaking. But I feel like the investment in literally the future is well worth it. And so I was happy to be the funder and to support this venture.
Well, it is a first-class product all the way through, as we'll find out as we go through the show. But, I mean, your 4 female singers, now I don't know if I'm pronouncing the names correctly, but, I mean, they're all incredibly celebrated in their own right. Estrella Morente, the flamenco musician and vocalist. Chloe, is it Pourmorady?
Pourmorady,
exactly.
Yeah. Persian-American composer, multi-instrumentalist, singer, educator. Our beautiful Deva Premal, of course, chart-topping Mantra singer, who we love on this show. And Uyanga Bold, what a voice. What a voice.
Yes. She's a rising star now in Hollywood. She just sang for Mulan, the latest live-action Disney movie, Mulan. She's on the soundtrack. She's one of the busiest singers now for the movies. She's from Mongolia. And she came to one of my retreats a year and a half ago. I taught a winter retreat in Los Angeles for sound healing and chanting and using sound as medicine. And she came as one of the students. I had no idea that, that she's that established singer. And she was just sitting in the class and doing incredible work with her voice. And I noticed her quality, and consequently, I started to teach her privately and mentor her, and she joined my ensemble for some concerts as a guest, and we became friends, and we've done a couple of projects. We are actually working currently on a new album, a whole album about the chakras featuring her. It's going to be a whole album of her singing, because we are so excited and about her and the power of her voice. She's a young singer from Mongolia. Yeah.
She's
very
she's the first Mongolian to attend the Berklee School of Music in Boston. And she's a remarkable person.
She comes from shamanic family, shamanic Buddhist lineage. And she's a very spiritual young lady, and we all will hear a lot this name, Uyanga Bold, in the future. Remember that name.
Yeah.
She works across many styles and platforms. And Deva Premal, what can we say? I mean, to me, she is
Yes.
She is the leading lady in mantra chanting in the world, especially in the West. There's nobody that does it the way she does it. For me, her voice and her pronunciation of the Sanskrit, she's really authentic. She practiced since a young age. She practiced the mantras, and it's really her life. She's committed to it. And she has a special quality, And then Estrella Morente is the number one female flamenco singer, gypsy flamenco in the world. She's considered now the voice of Andalusia. It was very hard to get her to sing on this album. Getting through to Deva Premal was a piece of cake compared with getting through to Estrella Morente. And she heard the music, and she just loved the song about compassion. And I translated the lyrics to Spanish for her, but the mantra, because each song has a mantra, the mantra is in Sanskrit. And she never, ever recorded any music in a foreign language. And so I was really concerned that she may turn us down, even if she likes the music, but she wouldn't want to sing in Sanskrit. And I wrote to her a letter in English, and my associate producer translated it to Spanish for us. And I said, look, I was with Dr. Gold. We were 5 years ago in Rajasthan on a concert tour, an exploration tour, to find the roots of flamenco in Rajasthan, India, because all the gypsies came, the Roma people came originally from Rajasthan, India. And I told her, look, this Sanskrit is the original language of your ancestors. There's a connection there. It's not just something I'm throwing at you. There's a deep, deep, deep connection to this language in your blood, because your ancestors came from India. And I was really hoping that my appeal will convince her to go for it, and she did. And when I heard her sing, my music, and she sang the Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra in Sanskrit, which is the most famous mantra for compassion. And this song is about compassion. It's called Compassion. I can't tell you, Sandie. I mean, I literally had tears in my throat, and it was just unbelievable to hear her sing it. And I heard it this morning again. I can't believe it. I mean, I can't believe that Estrella Morente is singing this song. It's incredible. What she owns it. That was the thing. She took it. She made it her own. When you listen to it, you hear she sings it as gypsy flamenco. She owned it. She didn't sing it for me. She didn't sing it, note by note as it's written. She took the melody that I sent to her, and she embellished it and adapted it to her style of singing, with her accent, with even when she sings the Spanish, it's not exactly the way Spanish people sing Spanish, because she's singing it in an Andalusian gypsy dialect. So she really took it. She really invested in this song to make it as if it's one of her songs. And I'm so grateful for her for this elevation and investment that she put into this track.
Well, we're going to play track one before we go to the break. And when we come back from the break, we're going to play track two, and you can tell us about that one, which I think is the one that Estrella is singing.
Right, right.
So very quickly,
Chloe first.
The first song is with Chloe, yes.
And its title is Loving Kindness. So we'll play that now as we go to break.
Aham
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
With so much loss, you may feel like you can't handle it all. Meditation or other spiritual practices can help you feel more grounded and better able to cope.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
Mental health. Most people think it means mental illness. Most people are wrong. Mental health doesn't apply to just some of us. It applies to everyone. We're all susceptible to anxiety and depression. They're human conditions, and no person should ever feel embarrassed, ashamed, or be discriminated against for being human. Cracked the podcast strips away the shame, fear, and stigma by expanding the conversation into areas less often visited. From brain and body chemistry, hormones, food, nutrition, trauma, and the microbiome, to pharmaceutical drugs, psychedelic substances, meditation, visionary experiences, and spiritual awakenings. Cracked the podcast will explore them all, including the notion that, for many, breakdown can be the beginning of breakthrough. For in the words of singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen, there is a crack in everything. It's where the light gets in. Cracked the podcast, slaying the dragons of mental health. Join co-hosts Sandie Sedgbeer and Rebecca Shaper on the first and third Thursday of every month at 12 noon Eastern Time.
Came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Well, Dr. Richard Gold, tell us about the track that we played out segment 1 with, Loving Kindness, which you dedicated to Deva. Why did you dedicate that to Deva?
Well, I did the dedication of that song, Sandie. That's Yuval speaking here. When I composed that song, not the song we just heard, but the song we heard before the break.
Before going out.
I dedicated it to Deva because I've been doing yoga for 20 years, 21 years now, a little bit more than maybe 22 years now, every week, and I've studied with only 2 teachers through those 22 years, and my teachers, Claire Hartley and Brenda Strong, always played the music of Deva Premal in the yoga class, and I've been hearing it for over 20 years while I'm doing yoga. And when I set to compose the song for Loving Kindness, I was thinking about Deva's voice, and to me, something about the gracefulness and the tenderness and the warmth of her voice represent for me the quality of loving kindness, of real kindness and divine quality of love. And that was the focus of this song. That's the quality that I wanted to invoke. And so thinking about Deva, but not writing for Deva, but thinking about Deva, I was composing this song, and I chose Chloe to sing it, interestingly.
And track 2 that we came back to, which was Compassion. Karuna, yes. Richard, do you want to tell us about that one?
Well, the use of what Yuval did with this song was a departure to do flamenco style, and our guitarist Adam Del Monte, I think we need to credit because he's remarkable. The compassion is not just caring for somebody, but it's actually feeling their suffering yourself. And when I hear Estrella, when she starts that song, I get a feeling in my heart and in my spine of just wanting to serve, that there's something about this where I want to be, my heart wants to be open, I want to be available. She captures that, and Adam's music, and flamenco is such passionate music, which is the same root as compassion, and I think that they achieve something quite unique, and again, it's a departure from what you would think of in this regard. And I just am deeply moved by it, even though I hear it almost every day now for a few years. It's a remarkable composition. You have a lot of album notes on this album, and they're really beautiful because you give quotes with every single track, and I'm not even going to begin to pronounce who is responsible for those quotes, who you are quoting, but they're really beautiful.
Yes. This is a Buddhist monk from. He is originally from Germany, but he lived in Sri Lanka all his life, and he was a very important Buddhist monk because he translated a lot of the Buddhist texts to English, and he was involved in publications and education and explaining Buddhism to the West. And he ended up starting the International Buddhist Publishing Press, which has a branch in Massachusetts, in United States, and their headquarters is in Sri Lanka. He passed on, but he left these beautiful quotes that I found most inspiring, and the way he explained what equanimity means in Buddhism, what vicarious joy means. I felt, I collected those quotes for myself to inform myself on how to compose the music, but I felt we ought to share it with the listeners. So we included it in the liner notes, and in the album page, there's a tab called Insights and Teaching. If you go to mettamindfulnessmusic.com and you go to the album page of 4 Divine States of Mind, you can find the quotes. You can find also practices, meditation practices and different practices that we recommend. There's a lot of material there.
Yes, it's much more than an album.
Important point. it's not just a musical album. We feel that these are important teachings that we want to share with the world, and that's what we're seeking to do.
Yeah.
Richard, we want to entertain and educate at the same time.
Absolutely. You've studied neuroscience and the evolving understanding of the effects of sound and meditation on the brain. What can you tell us about this particular album, these mantras, and even the individual instruments and voices of the singers and musicians, and how the effect that they are having on our bodies and our brain?
You want to talk, Yuval?
While you listen to the music, yes.
This is a little different. In previous albums, we use things like brain entrainment, where this we're using the tradition of mantra, the repetition of holy script, to embed into the consciousness and the unconsciousness these higher ideals. So that's one aspect. The musicians and the quality of the playing, I think, and the pacing of the music contribute to this type of brain entrainment, which is to help slow down. But we're really calling on more the ancient approach to meditative consciousness through chanting than sort of the more modern ideas of things we use with binaurals and isochronic tones in our music. This is a little bit of a departure in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, presumably just the sounds of those mantras, I mean, the morphic field around those mantras alone must have an enormous effect on people. Enormous.
Yeah. Because they've been chanted for thousands of years, and literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. In one of the videos, the behind the scene, we have a little segment where we took an interview that was done with Deva Premal in Paris. And she talks about the impact of mantras, and we included it in our videos. It's called Mudita, Vicarious Joy Behind the Scene. And the mantras, I feel the power of the mantras. I'll give you an example. When in yoga, when my teacher plays some American pop music or David Bowie, I have a completely different experience in the class. And when she plays mantra-based music, Jayutal, Deva Premal, all Sanskrit, all sacred music, all mantra-based, while we do the yoga, I feel a completely a deeper and longer-lasting impact of unity and equanimity and harmony in my body. And so I've done a workshop for yoga teachers in Los Angeles about 10 years ago. I gave a talk to yoga teachers how to use music and which music not to use and which music to use. But unfortunately, a lot of the teachers in the West treat yoga like aerobics, and they just play whatever, any music with a beat that they like, they play in the class. But they're really missing out the impact, the psychological and vibrational, energetic impact of the mantras. And this is my first mantra album. This is I've been in the music business for 35 years, and I don't know how many soundtracks and how many albums I produce and compose. I lost count, but this is my very first mantra album after 20 years doing yoga with mantras. And this is my contribution to the field of mantra, and I highly recommend it. I feel strong impact on myself, on my mind and my body. I'm not aware of scientific neuroscience studies that have been done testing what's going on in the brain when people listen to mantra and chant to mantra versus people who don't and do a certain activity. I haven't seen any of those, but I am aware of numerous studies that have been shown people that have been chanting a mantra, and it doesn't matter if it's Buddhist nuns or Orthodox Jews or Muslim chanters or Catholic monks. So it's studies that were done by one of our colleagues, Mark Robert Waldman, who's a consultant for Metta Mindfulness music. He wrote the book, How God Changes Your Brain. How God Changes Your Brain. And in this book, he presented over 400 studies showing that people who've been doing these practices authentically across religions or spiritual tradition, if they do it for about 45 minutes, nonstop and really authentically and with focus of the mind, there were similar changes happen in the brain. And those changes are amazing. It really supports the whole descriptions in the mystical quarters about nirvana and reaching altered states of mind. Those neurosciences studies actually show that there are changes in the brain that support the description of becoming one of all things, the sensation that you disappears, the sensation that all things around you are connected. And, these kind of mystical reports that we've been hearing from mystics for thousands of years now are being supported and explained partially by the neuroscience that we get.
Yeah. Well, we're going to play a little bit of track 3, because I have to say each track is somewhere between 11 and 14 minutes long. We couldn't play all of them, but we're going to play a little bit of Vicarious Joy now, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we come back. So let's have a listen to a little segment of Vicarious Joy.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes' flagship radio show, What Is Going On? As a long-time editor, book judge, spiritual magazine publisher and radio host, I've read thousands of books and interviewed hundreds of authors and teachers, so I know what's worth reading and what isn't. Now, with the spiritual book market growing increasingly crowded, more and more people are seeking my help in finding the authentic voices, the empowering tools, and the genuine skip the BS guidance that will make the most difference to their spiritual development. So I decided to make it easier by bringing my knowledge, experience, and considerable network of contacts together in the No BS Spiritual Book Club. There are no ads, no joining fees, no obligations, and no BS. Just an ever-growing library compiled by recognizable and respected names of the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journeys. Plus free book excerpts, audios, and live video interviews where you can quiz them about their spiritual journeys and their 10 best list choices. Your time and money are valuable, your spiritual journey even more so. If you're looking for genuine guidance from people who've walked this path before you, check out Sedgbeer.com. Click on the No BS Spiritual Book Club tab and join the club. That's Sedgbeer.com, SEDGBEER.com. I'll see you there.
At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. And the truth can inspire change. Please learn more at EJI.org.
Welcome back. Well, of course, the voice we were listening to on that last track, Vicarious Joy, was Deva.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to listen to that sitting down.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's hard for me to listen to it and just not want to just disappear.
Somebody wrote, Sandie, I think one of the music critics wrote about this album something like, this music will take you out of yourself. You know, this is exactly what you're describing.
Yeah.
And this is what vicarious joy is about. It's not about your own happiness so much as providing joy for someone else. And I think that this song and Deva and the sitar playing and the drumming really capture that. It just takes you out of yourself into someone else's realm.
Yeah. And I love the notes that you have with that. You say that the full mantra has been translated most commonly as, may all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. How beautiful is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, that's what
So tell me a little bit about the practices that you share on your website and on the album liner notes that people can do with these.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are chanting practices. We encourage people to participate, not just to listen to music passively, although listening to music that is harmonious and has positive messages like these chanting, it has a positive impact on well-being and on the brain. But according to neuroscience, if you participate in the musical activity, if you sing along, if you move your body, if you drum along, if you just tap the music, there's more impact on the brain and there's more impact on health, a positive impact. So we encourage people to sing the mantra. The mantra is very, very simple, and it keeps repeating for 15 minutes. It keeps repeating on and on and on. And so you can just learn it by listening. If you chant along, if you move along, it will do more good. This is called embodiment, to take it into your body. There's several practices in the liner notes. It has to do with meditation. And I highly recommend and encourage people to participate, not just to listen to the music in the background.
And you had a children's choir on the album too.
Right. You see, the style of music is called kirtan, and in kirtan, it's a call and answer. So you have the singer sings the mantra, one line of the mantra, and then the crowd or the sangha, the community group, sing back. So it's a call and answer. So I decided to bring instead of hiring a professional kirtan group made of yogis or people who play music for yoga, I decided to bring children choir because for me this work is all about the future. It's all about the young generation, to try to invest in them. I wanted to bring their voices to this album. So we chose to have a children a choir singing the answers. So when you hear Vicarious Joy, you hear Deva Premal sing one time, one line, and then you hear the children respond, and sometimes they sing together. And when I hear those children voices, it really opens my heart. It really expands my heart. There's sweetness and naivete and beauty that the children have that no grown-up singers have.
There's another synchronistic aspect of this track, which is wonderful, which is the percussionist is from India, and he just happened to be in L.A., and Yuval had a previous relationship with him, and really in an unplanned manner, Yuval brought him into the studio, and he played a variety of drums. He's on tour in America with his drumming. He's a highly renowned drummer in India. And he just happened to be there at the moment we needed him, so it made it very, very special.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Somnath.
And the sitar player
Somnath Roy.
Yes, I saw him on the videos, and seeing the videos gives it a whole other dimension. I mean, you were talking just now about the children and the innocence and the purity of them, and that is demonstrated in some of the shots that you've got of children. I mean, those little boys, just little Buddha boys, and the tiny little girl meditating. I mean, they're just so beautiful. You can't help but open your heart when you look at them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you have personal favorites on the album?
For me, it has to do with what mood I'm seeking or what in my meditation I want to focus on, and so it really varies. I have different favorites each day, it seems like, but I love all the tracks, and they're also different. The music's different, the instrumentation's different, the divine voices of the female singers are different. So I'd say my favorites are all of them.
I feel too. They're really like four worlds. It's like the four seasons of Vivaldi. Each season is different. Each world is different, and it has different sound. It has a different lead singer. I happen to be the behind-the-scene composer on all of them, but they really feature four different approaches, four different worlds, and it's interesting. Some people told me that because of that nature of the album, that there are only 4 songs, and each song is about 15 minutes long, and each song is another world. Some listeners wrote to me that they listened to the first track for 3 months, They couldn't go on. They couldn't. They just didn't dare to go to the second track. They just kept listening to the first track because they loved it so much. And they've been, one person told me, a yoga teacher from Los Angeles, he's been driving with the music in his car for 3 months just listening to the first track. And then he went to the second track and spent 2 months with the second track. And now he's just on the third track. He's just obsessed with the third track. He had this almost a year, and he still haven't heard the fourth track. So, you know, that's surprising. You know, it's interesting how people listen to music and how they relate to it.
Well, track
you
four.
Share the anecdote about Alam Khan and the sitar player Ghosh. That's a beautiful story.
Oh.
Make it quick because we want to make sure we get track 4 on.
Yeah. Well, we have a great player named Alam Khan who plays the sarod on the first track, and he's the son of a great master from India, Ali Akbar Khan. And when I sent the finished album to the master of the sitar, Pandit Nayan Ghosh, who's in Mumbai in India, to listen to the whole thing, and the sitar player Ghosh played on the third track. He asked me, who's playing on the first track? Who's playing the sarod? It's very tasteful. And I told him, that's Alam Khan. And he exploded with delight. He said, he's like my family. I'm like his uncle. Our two families studied with the same great master. There's two different families of masters. They actually have a combined lineage going back 4 generations. They come from the same master 4 generations back, but it's two different families, and they always played together in India. They're very intertwined. And so I told Alam Khan that Nayan Ghosh, the great sitar master from Mumbai, said that his playing is very tasteful, and they had no idea that they're working with me on the same album, and it was such a delight to connect them through this album again. It was beautiful because Alam Khan is now in San Francisco, and Nayan Ghosh is in Mumbai. And through this album, they connected again, and the whole lineage thing came, and it was beautiful to know.
I always love it when synchronicity happens. Well, we're going to play track 4 now, Equanimity, and we're going to hear the beautiful voice of Uyanga Bold. I didn't know until I read it on your liner notes that in the Buddhist tradition, the sound of the gong represents the impermanence of all things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a very special gong on this track.
Yeah, the gong is very important in the temples. If you always have a gong or a bell in the temples, and the nature of metallic percussion and gongs and bells. Let's talk just about a plain bell and gong. If you look at an analysis on a computer screen of the sound wave of a gong or a metallic bell, what is unique about that you see on the graph that the sound wave jumps to full volume instantaneously, meaning immediately.
Yeah.
It's the highest intensity, and then it fades away. It fades away, and you see it in the sound wave. And none other music instrument, like for example, the clarinet or the guitar, or the harp, or even the flute, they don't have that incredible characteristic attack. We call it the attack of. Okay, so even if you think that you hear a clarinet or a flute playing a note and you hear it, and the player plays really loud, and you hear it, da, let's say a trumpet, da. If you look very carefully in a computer analysis, there's a little bit of a build-up in the very beginning. It has to do with the breath. There's a little bit of a build-up to the full volume, and then the fade out. Now, with a gong and a bell, it's not. It's the most instantaneous full volume sound wave, and that's a vibration, and our brain receives it. An immediate call for attention. Yes.
Yeah, I'm really sorry, but we do have to go, and I want to make sure that our listeners know where they can get the album. So tell us where they can find it.
Yeah, the album is available everywhere, on iTunes, on Spotify, on Amazon, on Google, on YouTube, everywhere. You just type in 4 Divine States of Mind album, and you will find it. You also can find it on mettamindfulnessmusic.com, Metta with double T, mettamindfulnessmusic.com. You can find it on yuvalronmusic.com. Enjoy it. You can get it on CD, you can get it on digital, everywhere.
That's beautiful. Yuval Ron, Dr. Richard Gold, it's always a pleasure to speak to you too.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Sandie.
you for joining us.
Thank you, Sandie. Be well.
Wonderful.
Bye-bye. Well, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. You can learn more about me and the No BS Spiritual Book Club at sedgbeer.com, and I'll be back with you at the same time next week. Till then, it's goodbye from me.